You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 2 of Prophetic Dreams, Misérables.
I also helped save the University of Nebraska had I just realized we're recording. How fun. The University of Nebraska had a satirical newspaper, which I also helped save the funding for, because I'm a lover of the arts, even if it rarely made me laugh.
Turn those lights off for me? Thank you.
So our student newspaper was called The Daily Nebraskan. And do you know what our satirical newspaper was called?
No.
The Dailier Nebraskan.
I do like
Probably
that.
their best joke. I'm not going to lie.
I had an active fight with our newspaper.
Say everything I want to know. Tell me of your petty grievances, child.
Junior year, I served on that event planning council, right? And I was
Right.
the outreach and athletics chair. And so part of that was outreach, so I would do...
And was the other part athletics?
No, actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
So it was outreach, and so the council that I was on is a governing body, and all of the governing bodies need a representative on
Right.
undergraduate student government. So I was the representative for MAC on undergraduate student government, so we got to vote on stuff. And one of the biggest deal that I had to deal with was allocations every year, which is like where we get all the student funds, vote on like new student funds, and most importantly, vote where allocations go to each governing body. And everyone would always propose more than they needed, right?
Okay.
Because you're going to get cut. And it's a meeting that lasts fucking forever. Like, I think I was there till like 2 a.m. And you just like go around, you propose cuts, you keep cutting stuff, you like vote, and then eventually until we're at the level of student fees that we're actually going to get, that's when we stop. And you don't stop until then.
Right.
And I had beef with fucking, what was it called? High Grade.
Okay.
I think High Grade and the Ore Digger, which was like our on-campus newspaper. And
I was
like,
going to say, what are those things?
the on-campus newspaper is the Ore Digger, and then it's not High Point. It's like high something. It was like the quarterly art
Oh, yeah, okay.
pamphlet.
High art.
Yeah, basically. Like if you like did poetry or photography or art, you could like submit it and then they
Sure.
would print it, which was all fine and good, and like absolutely loved that. But they were asking for an increased budget to print more. I have an entire folder on my phone still of photos. Every time the Ore Digger released a thing, I would go a week after the Ore Digger released and take pictures in all the newsstands of how many like things were left.
Sure.
And I was like, no.
No one is asking for more.
Literally no one.
Just make the original paper longer, I guess.
And also, you have an online platform. Like, I cannot stress this enough.
And it's like, that kind of stuff is cool, but it's also important because you're just trying to get students to have like published work before they leave, and you can do that online.
Most of it is online now.
A famous lover of the arts.
I love the arts. I just was like, you can't tell me I need to cut my budget for security.
Yeah.
And then also tell me you need to print more newspapers.
No one's reading.
My brother in Christ.
I'll say this. So I'm in college. I'm on this fee committee like in 2014, and clearly for decades, our student newspaper. I don't know if I'm. Yeah, it's fine. Clearly for decades, our student newspaper was like really well funded because like everyone would advertise in it, and you could put like classified ads and stuff like that. Anything from like a date to a tutor, which I think is the same thing, but that's fine.
I'm really bad at math.
Why is 1 + me equals solo? That was so bad.
That was so bad.
Lover of the arts.
You plus me equals 1.
Oh, there's so many different things, but I'm trying to say on topic.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyways, so in 2014, no one is advertising in the student newspaper anymore because the internet exists.
Yeah.
And no one's thinking to go there anymore. So a newspaper that used to pay for itself and then some, like now needs a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And so we're going over their like financial plan or whatever. And these motherfuckers have been buying like CDs and like long-term saving accounts things and like had a financial cushion that was like sizable. And I was like, what crystal ball were you staring into when it was money hand over fist in the 80s? That made you think, I knew what it was. The University of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay? We are a more conservative culture in general. You know, we could, in theory, get out of this asbestos-filled basement, or children who aren't even alive yet will still have a paper when they're students at the university. And I really am glad they chose the second one. A moldy newsroom is such a vibe.
It is. It really, really is. That allocations meeting that I had to go to. First of all, if you're listening and you were And you were maybe involved in the Ore Digger or High Point. I'm realizing now that we might have I love the arts.
I think it's funny that you think they're still listening to us after you offended them like that.
I love the arts. I just disagreed with that one point. Anyway, there was a point in that allocations. It's like super tense, and every time someone proposes a cut to you, there's always like this air of like defensiveness that you're like, but we can't, And so like everyone on Mac, there's like 9 people, get paid 5 hours a week, which is like nothing.
That's volunteer basis.
When Casey joined for the first time, he was like, our contract that we signed says up to 20 hours because that's like what student employees typically get. And so when he first joined Mac, I had just graduated, but he was like, can I charge like the full 20 hours? Because I worked like 25. And I was like, oh no. That's really cute.
That was pro bono, baby.
That's really sweet that you think that though. So we get paid 5 hours a week, and someone proposed a cut to our salaries. So it was they were proposing that we only make like 4 hours a week, and the whole thing's live streamed so that there's only 2 representatives allowed, or maybe 3, like 2 representatives and a real adult
advisor
are allowed there, and then other people can watch. So of course, like the year before I was on it, I watched like online and watched all the drama unfold, but Kelsey's also watching from like her couch or whatever. And so she hears the proposal and she's like, we'll cover that from the sale budget. Just say it's okay. Like, don't argue at all. Okay. I got a round of applause. They didn't know we weren't giving up anything.
Oh, we'll get our way. We'll get our way.
Do you watch Love is Blind at all?
No. I know what it is conceptually.
Yeah. So it's
a drinking game, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's from all the lawsuits, I think that is what it is.
That's actually a really fair point.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was this girl who on it, you said, we'll get our way. And that's what reminded me of this. There's these 2 girls that were both kind of dating the same guy when they're in the pods, right? Like you're blind dating, and then eventually you choose one person and you leave with them engaged. And so he chose the other girl. There's a blonde girl and a brunette girl.
Okay.
And he chooses the blonde. But he breaks up with the brunette first. And so the blonde doesn't know what's happening. The brunette comes in and she's like, it's you. Like they had figured out that they were both dating the same person. Okay. And she was like, it's you. And like it was a very casual conversation, but then the blonde goes like you'll like find some, like you don't deserve to have someone that's gonna choose you second. It was like very like cute and sweet and like not aggressive at all. But then she was like, I'll have my moment. And then
this isn't the last you've seen of me. Click, click, click. Walks away.
They get engaged. They come back, and the whole premise is that they get engaged. They go on a honeymoon. They come back. They live together in like something that the studio provides for them for like a month or something. They cut to the scene of them, and they're the blonde and then the guy are sitting like very aggressively across from each other in the living room, and you can you don't know what's happened, but you know it's
other
bad.
than divorce.
Yeah. And she starts talking about how she had seen his location last night.
Oh.
And he starts explaining that he went out to drinks with the guys.
Drinks with the boys.
And then he found out that Sarah Ann, the brunette, was at one of these bars. And so he's just gonna go and get some closure. Give her some closure.
Because if 5 of you went out, and 3 of you must not have been really hungry because I found the receipt and only 2 of you ate. It's like a song, I just butchered all the lyrics, but it's the lyrics to Say My Name, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He drove her home.
Okay.
Apparently he left his phone in the car and forgot his watch was on him, and his watch had cellular, and so
no. His heart rate?
No, it had like his location still, so she could watch it even though he thought that he might be in the clear. They deny to this day that they had sex. I don't believe it for a second.
Wait,
he didn't come home till like 6 a.m.
He was like, I know what I'll do. I'll leave my phone in the car outside her house.
I'm not sure.
For 5 hours?
From at least like when the bar closed from 2 to 5. But they were just talking. Then this girl, I'm so happy that you haven't seen any of this.
Part of me is like, just admit to it and then do the work around that, because right now it's damaging your relationship and you can't do the work around it. Relationship expert Grant, I'm regularly single.
The best part about all of this, okay, is the brunette and this guy are like very like their engagement's basically over, but not quite yet.
Sure,
like
contractually they have to talk in a couple more days, right?
Yes, exactly. And they're all together at this like barbecue thing, and Sarah Ann shows up, and it's like Laura, the blonde, is finally like, our engagement is over. And then he immediately goes jet skiing with Sarah Ann. Anyway, they're still together now.
Who, Sarah Ann and
This guy, Zach, I think.
Okay.
They're still together now, and Laura was like away on work or something for the tell-all. You know, they like The Bachelor.
Right.
So she was away, and so she phoned in by like video, and Sarah Ann's sitting there with her hair up in this like neon pink prom dress looking thing with like glitter all across her chest, and she has, I don't even know what the conversation was, like Laura's like pissed and she's like coming at them, and Sarah Ann's like, you called me a pick-me girl and you're the fucking pick-me girl. Everyone's like I love reality TV, guys.
I also kind of love it too because Sarah Ann's very clearly like, I never said I was done. I just said I'll be back.
One of the other girls called her out on it at the tell-all and was like, yeah, you had your moment, like you said. And Sarah Ann went like really offended.
I just really wish, and I know this is a gay-coded thing, but like step into your villainry, you know? Like everyone's already thinking about it. This way you can become iconic.
Here's like, did you...
We're about to become a pop culture podcast, which is so scary. I promise you, this is not at all related to today's episode.
Literally one more thing to say. Did you ever watch Selling Sunset?
I'm familiar with it. I have not seen it.
The like first couple seasons, there's like this, the villain of the series is Christine. And she like made a whole personality out of it. Like that isn't, she's not even on the show anymore. And she's still like making tons of like affiliate like deals and stuff. She's in it, but she accepted her villain era. Right. She's like done interviews about it. Like, yeah, they made me the villain. Like, whatever. Right. Sarah still thinks everyone's rooting for her.
Low-key, I kind of am.
I hate both of them. I think they're both disgusting. It's fine.
Kind of weirdly related. And if you have kids in the car, this is not a story you're going to want your children to share. And I want you to know that I did not prompt this professionally, and I had to handle it immediately. This is one of the things I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
2 kids in my class, in one of my advanced speech and debate classes, children I have known very well. This is like their second or third year with me as their teacher. 2 students were arguing with each other, and a third student just go ahead and shares, unprompted, not a part of the conversation, and loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Daddy, stop." Do you know how fucking hard it is to hold it together in that kind of moment?
I can see your face just go,
like, honestly, what I will do a lot of times now is I'll kind of like bring my coffee cup up, and if you just tilt it a little bit, it covers most of your face, and you don't have to drink anything, and immediately I'm like, whoa, kiddo, whoa, you can't say that. That's way really out of line.
I would be laughing into the coffee cup so that it echoes.
Cut to like 25 minutes later, and I'm trying to write on the board, and my back is turned to my class because I'm like trying to write on the board, and I start to laugh so much I cry a little. And they're like, "What is it, Thomas? What's going on? Mister, what's happening?" And I go, "Nothing, sorry, I'm just really excited about what I'm going to do tonight." Meanwhile, all I'm hearing in my head is, "Daddy, stop!" Oh, also, on a different day, in a different class, my homeroom class, 3 of the children discovered the podcast on TikTok. They discovered it after school, and when I told them to put their phones away during homeroom, it triggered the memory because I was making them stop and watching TikTok. So they did put their phones away and then immediately opened up their computers, and honestly really proud, like some solid research, found us almost instantly.
Yeah,
and I'm like gaslighting, I'm denying them, I'm using like my favorite line. I'm like, "What, you found a bald white man online?" And just assumed that I was that one. Like, I love you guys. Hunt out of bounds there, you know? And they go, "Mister, like, you're going to say this photo isn't you?" And they turn it around, and it's, like, from our website. And where it's like, "Meet Grant." And I go, "No, that's not even mean." They go, "You're literally wearing that sweater right now." And I go, "A lot of people have Nebraska sweatshirts." They're like, "Meet Grant Thomas, picture of me with the sweater," and I'm at my desk in that sweater. No, guys, that's like not even me. Like, you don't even understand.
So funny.
It was the epitome of, "You gonna tell me I'm wrong, dude? You gonna tell me I'm wrong?
Grow up."
So work's been good
that.
recently. Work's been good. You can definitely tell we are in quarter 4 because the threads are coming undone. The threads are coming undone.
I have a really funny story. I did not get permission to share it on the podcast, so it's going to remain anonymous. I have a very close friend who you have met, who's on the dating apps, and she was out on the town this past weekend, and she's on Hinge, right? So I don't know if like it was intentionally that she like ran into some people that she had already matched with on Hinge, or if like she met someone and they were like, "Hi, it's me from Hinge," but she also gave her a number out to a couple of people.
Okay.
And so one of them texted her. Apparently, she was wearing this like very specific hat that night, and one of the guys was like, I have that hat." And so later, after he got her number, he sent her a picture of like him with the hat.
Okay.
But you can't really see all of his face. He like really has it turned down so you can see all of it. So it's really just like
so you can just see the hat.
Nose down. And so she's like, "Oh, great, that's really great." And they talk for a little bit, and she's like, "So I'm so sorry, I like don't remember your name." And he's like, "Well, you can just check Hinge."
Babe, I can't. Babe, I cannot.
She comes over to me, she's cackling, and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "All the men in Denver look the same."
We really do.
She went through her and she found one that like kind of looks like him. So she was like, this has got to be him, right? And so she was like, "Seamus?" And he goes,
"It was not Seamus."
He goes, "No." And so she like scrolls a little bit and she's like, "Is it Chase?" I don't think that these are not the real names,
sure.
But Chase. And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And she was like, "Just for the bit. It's just all a joke." And he goes, "I knew it must be a joke because who the fuck is actually named Seamus?"
You know, for a little bit, I had a quick little love twist with a man named Seamus when I was in college.
I've only met one Seamus.
Same.
He did wear a lot of kilts, though.
Ooh, no, mine did not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fun. I also love that there's just this tradition that if you are on a date, because you kind of live in the date neighborhood. Like, this is very walkable. There's lots of restaurants and breweries. If you're trying to meet someone for the first time, very chill atmosphere. Which also means after you walk to your car and you have seen your date drive away, you can then get out of your car and walk over to Maya's. I'm like, literally, the last time I walked over, I had like hat down. I was like watching to make sure he drove away, and then I was like, 3, 2, 1,
and
out. Exactly. Well, I didn't want to lose the spot. It was a good parking spot. I wasn't sure how long we were going to be.
So funny. Apparently Lee is also really on his dating grind.
Ooh,
his roommate.
Good luck, everybody.
Was telling me he had like 3 dates.
Good for him.
Like from last weekend to this weekend.
Stay tuned for another accidentally trapped myself in a murder situation.
He has told us that he has another story that he.
I would
be
truly love to have him back on. Maybe for the next theme.
Oh, yeah.
Do we announce it here now so that way they can start sending in listener stories?
Yeah.
The next theme. Obviously, this is part 2 of Prophetic Dreams. The next theme is going to be In the Bag. So if you have any fun stories about In the Bag,
he sent that to me, and I immediately knew what I was doing. That hasn't happened in a while. I'm very excited.
This morning, you were like, "Do you have an idea as to what the next theme is going to be?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." And you were like, "What is it?"
Well, I was like, "Why are you teasing it out?"
Because I hadn't decided for sure if that was my theme or not.
I told you the themes before I decided.
But I had like a very specific story I wanted to do that I also at that time could not remember. And so I'm like, "Oh, how was it? We're in the ballpark. Yep, it's in the bag. Okay, fantastic."
I'm excited.
As you should be. I'm excited too. But let's talk about tonight's theme and tonight's story, Prophetic Dreams.
Prophetic Dreams.
This is one of those really exciting moments that when you told me what the theme was, I came up with my story like kind of right away, at least that evening still, but had not done any research on it. And I say it's one of those rare stories because then the research actually panned out to work really well. So I am really excited to talk about tonight's episode.
Really quick, we got this very cute little postcard from our friend who was passing through Oklahoma. I think they still live there. Yes, they still live there. But it's the thing on Route 66, and it looks like a giant soda pop can.
It does. I did not clock that at first, to be completely honest.
Oh, well. It's pretty
Just
clear.
seen a lot of roadside attractions. I was like, oh yeah, giant phallic object in the sky, sure, whatever.
Anyway, if you ever want to send us a postcard, it might be my love language.
We do save all of them.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I have a question to start off the evening for you.
Yes. Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. We finally did it. The more we make the bit, the more I can't do Abraham Lincoln, which is really tough.
Could do it for like one of our big episodes, or 60 or whatever the next one is.
Drag name, Babaham. We might have to cut that. Sorry. I'm
just gonna bleep it out.
Fantastic. Let it be a mystery.
Yeah.
Thank you for protecting me like that. No, my actual question to start off the day: were you ever, as a kid, a big watcher of American Idol?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me about your experience for a second. Would you like call in for American Idol? Okay. Who were the people that you have like still not gotten over?
Oh man. Kelly Clarkson is just the first one that comes to the brain because she was the first winner, right? And I remember watching her, and she's also like, there's a joke now on TikTok that like, if Kelly Clarkson covers your song, babes, that is her song.
Right, she
now.
owns it
She
now.
owns that song.
It's the number one thing streaming on Spotify.
I honestly, I feel like I can picture the people that I remember. There was one guy who was like, had really black emo hair and like an emo haircut. I can't remember any other names specifically. Was it Kate Hudson? No, not Kate Hudson.
Was it Kate Hudson?
There was a Hudson. There something Hill. I need to look up the one.
I think some people are yelling at us right now.
Yeah,
in
probably.
Their car. They're like, oh, it's so-and-so.
It's so-and-so.
My family was never huge watchers of American Idol. We, again, were watching The Medium on ABC Family. But I remember a couple of them. David Archuleta is now having a whole, like, kind of second act on TikTok. He's released a new song that's great. He's recently come out, so that's why I'm invested in this story. I know. I don't know if, like, recently for him or the world, but recently in my world.
In your world, yeah.
I'm now aware of David Archuleta's story.
Oh, the guy who sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow, maybe? This guy.
Oh, him! Ooh. Let me get the singer. Actually, Maya has a beautiful singing voice, and I really do think you're going to enjoy tonight's episode.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So, in America, we had American Idol. What did they have across the seas?
David Cook. That's who I'm thinking of. Sorry.
You're right.
Jordan Sparks. Oh my God.
She's on a whole listicle right now.
Carrie Underwood.
She was an American Idol girl?
Yes.
Oh.
I forgot. Fantasia. I don't remember her. And then Kelly Clarkson, yeah.
Okay, so the question stands.
I'm here now.
No, you're okay.
Yeah.
You've always been here. We had American Idol here in the
Yes.
States. Across the pond in the UK, what did they have?
I know they have like their version of America's Got Talent.
Right,
but
Britain's
I feel
Got Talent, which
yeah.
is mostly a singing show.
Yeah.
What's the most famous act from Britain's Got
I
Talent?
could not tell you.
You could as soon as I tell it to you.
Oh no.
Susan Boyle. You know what I'm talking about, right?
That name sounds really familiar. I can't. Oh, I'm sorry.
Casey/Maya, whoever ends up editing this, I'm so sorry that you're going to have to cut out this part. I must show you the Susan Boyle.
Susan Boyle? Okay.
Oh, good. It's the most recent search.
You're like, I can't believe I have to type this.
Heavy industry.
That's a commercial.
Heavy industry.
She works at a plant.
In a plant or on a plant?
Correct.
Within a
YouTube
plant.
just has more and more ads these days.
I know. Lee got me this. Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
My name is Susan Boyle.
Yes.
Okay,
I know her
Susan,
face.
Where are you from?
I am from Blackburn near Bathgate, West Lothian.
It's a big town.
It's a sort of collection of...
And she's like super awkward and like no one believes in her.
Okay, and who would you like to be as successful as?
Elaine Page.
Elaine Page.
I want you to remember that moment. She
Okay.
wants to be like Elaine Page.
I dreamed a dream from the Misérables.
I do recognize her face.
No one believes in her. People are laughing at her.
Wow, Pierce Morgan and Simon Cowell?
I know.
I dreamed a dream in time of
And then she's wonderful,
Yeah.
and it like stuns everybody,
Yeah.
right?
I love that.
Later that season
Yeah.
or next year, she gets to sing on stage with Elaine Page.
Aww.
And she becomes this like incredible like recording artist, and she has like some success.
What has she been in anything? I feel like I don't know her face.
So truthfully, this is where my knowledge of Susan Boyle ends.
Oh, I thought this was going to be just a whole episode
on
about
Susan Boyle. Another misunderstood woman. No, I will say this. I remember the last time I remember reading a big news article about Susan Boyle is she announced, she was like, oh, I've recently like kind of come to terms or realized or been diagnosed that I have autism. And that's one of the reasons why I've struggled to like really be social in the past. But she has a couple of albums and stuff. And she had like a whole music career.
Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
she sings the song I Dreamed a Dream by Les Misérables. And when you said Prophetic Dreams, that video popped into my brain. Here's the thing about me, friends. Here's the thing about me. I know I regularly give off like Phil Dunphy golden retriever energy, right? Yes. Like never had a fully bad day in my life. And one of the things is I watch a series of videos, TikToks just called Hope Core. Are you familiar with that?
No, my mental health, I think, filters those ones out for me. Like, you don't need to see that. It'll just make you cry. I
not even joking. I shouldn't say every night. That doesn't sound great. But a lot of times at night, between like kind of wrapping up for the evening and before I go to bed, I'll get on TikTok and I'll just cry a couple happy tears about some Hope Core videos that I got on.
Dude, the Well I Laughed TikTok's algorithm is so weird right now.
Well, because it's neither one of our main accounts. So it's like, what do you want?
It's basically my main account at this point.
Ooh, yeah.
But I feel like I only interact with stuff about Hadestown and like Hamilton. So it's just a musical.
You are going to love today's episode because I'm going to stop teasing it out.
Okay.
Today's episode is on Victor Hugo.
Okay.
The man who wrote Les Misérables.
Oh, God.
No,
Maddie's going to be so excited.
The reaction I'm getting from you is so good because I was like, this is a huge risk. I'm talking to a theater girly about Victor Hugo. Giant risk. Couldn't be riskier. Do you have opinions on Victor Hugo already?
If I were Maddie.
Okay.
Yes.
But you're not. You're Maya.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't. I've watched it a few times.
Okay.
I like it. I mean.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I have to
pause the podcast. What the fuck do you mean you like it?
It's a good musical.
It's a 2.5 hour European opera in the style of an American musical.
Yeah.
Based loosely off of a book Victor Hugo wrote in the 1850s.
Oh, so we're talking about the author, not the musical.
Of course we're talking about the author. It's me. We're talking about another misunderstood author. No, we actually really understand Victor Hugo. I spent 2 days trying to find like the underbelly to it all. I was looking for like my Mary Shelley or Agatha Christie moment. And this dude's still pretty cool, but like we documented him, I think, really well. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So Victor Hugo, who is he? What are we going to talk about? Why should you be listening if you haven't already tuned out? Victor Hugo, famous for writing the book Les Mis, also wrote...
Sorry, I'm just fact-checking myself that I said Stephen Sondheim, and I just need to know that that's correct before someone yells at me. No one's clear. I want an answer on Google that's like, yes, Stephen Sondheim.
The algorithm's gotten worse. I'd agree with you, but I'm old.
Yeah.
Victor Hugo wrote Les Mis,
okay.
And then he also wrote another book that you would recognize, The Hunchback of Notre-Dame, and then wrote like a bunch of other stuff and like kind of defined the era of French literature that he was in and stuff like that. We're going to cover it, babes, including how much he hated the English title, The Hunchback of Notre-Dame, and his title, no mention of the word hunchback.
It's like these Americans.
As I might end up reading tonight, never entirely sure what I end up actually keeping and getting rid of. Some like kind of zesty English publisher was like, let's make it more clear, hunchback.
Ah, yes.
Okay, so Victor Hugo.
The deformed person of Notre Dame.
I don't actually know what his, because obviously I didn't read the original French. It was written in the 1830s. Okay, so Victor Hugo is rightly remembered for his amazing literary output and for his philanthropic work as a member of France's National Assembly, aka their Congress. He campaigned for the end of poverty, free education for all children, the abolition of the death penalty, and so much more. But he was also incredibly eccentric and I think libacious is the word I was going for there, with a penchant for all sorts of crazy behaviors. So before we lock in for a quick little discussion about Victor Hugo, his legacy, the publishing of his books, things like that, I just want to tell you a couple of crazy things about Victor Hugo. And I debated as to where to put this in the story, but it felt like, kind of put it up front, give everyone a taste for what this man's personality was. Number 1. There is a monument marking the exact spot where Victor Hugo was conceived.
I was ready for killed.
Not born.
Got the book. Found out he got the book published. Wrote the first chapters. Wrote the last chapter. No, conceived.
Conceived by two parents who would later divorce each other. So it wasn't like theirs was a love story for the ages. Fortunately, Victor Hugo had enough love in him for everybody.
Good.
So on France's Mount Donon, Donon, you can enjoy spectacular vistas across the borders of France, Germany, and Switzerland. But in May 1801, Major Hugo and his wife were not paying much attention to the view.
Nice.
And in the 1960s, a museum curator decided to mark the spot where Hugo was conceived and engraved a sandstone block. I did not write that. The little but his parents weren't noticing the views or anything, came from an actual article that I read.
I have a lot of questions.
Oh, girl, if you think that's weird, or if you're really just kind of a fan of when we do weird history stuff, you're gonna really like the Victor Hugo story. I started off thinking I was pursuing another Agatha Christie or maybe a Britney Spears. I think this is most related to the Devil's Little Pupfish.
Wait, okay, so last weekend I was in Steamboat with Maddie. It was her 30th.
Fun.
And they kept talking about random topics, and at one point we were talking about the podcast, and I was like, yeah, the Devil's Hole Pupfish, and then we were talking about Underground, and then we started talking about Britney Spears, and I was like, that's an episode. And then we were talking about was it Frankenstein? There was another one where I was like, we also talk about that on the podcast.
Guys, you're not gonna believe this. We're only 50 episodes in, and we're we can actually cover all of Dinner Party Conversation.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay. Well, I didn't really actually need to be here. Okay.
So the end of that first one was that Hugo was always a storyteller, so he added his own stuff.
Okay.
It was a Celtic sanctuary, that's a tongue twister, at the summit where it happened, or a Roman temple of love, or that it was 3,000 feet taller than it actually is.
What? In reference to what?
The mountain was 3,000 feet taller than the mountain actually. What on earth could he? 3,000 feet, Maya?
I didn't know what you were even talking about. That's what I was asking.
He also claimed that his mother was half wild Amazonian. That's now a direct quote from him. His mother was born on the Atlantic coast of France, kind of right below the armpit of Brittany.
Just literally not where the Amazon is.
Well, listen, have you ever met any of the people from the countryside? I mean, I get it.
They're just so uncivilized.
I'm totally kidding.
I know.
And obviously, we don't agree with that. But I do believe that's what Victor Hugo was suggesting about his mother. There was just so many things. There's 4 pages on the publishing of Les Mis. I didn't have enough time to get into his weird mommy complex. There's a little bit of it, obviously, but not a lot.
You don't call someone an Amazonian without a little bit of a complex, whether positive or negative.
Fun fact numero dos.
Yeah.
Hugo was probably the 19th century's, so that's the 1800s, most prolific sex addict. Hugo's this is not going to be a family-friendly story. Hugo's insistent retelling of the story of his own conception. Hugo talks about that all the time in a super normal and well-balanced way.
That's so weird to then also be combined with the fact that he was a sex addict.
Oh, completely obsessed with sex. Couldn't get enough of it. He claimed that on his wedding night, when he was 20, he and his wife, Adele Foucher, Foucher. How would you say that in French? Foucher. They had sex 9 times. And Foucher was like, we gotta stop. And
Yikes.
Hugo was like, fine.
Just say you don't love me then.
Honestly, apparently they did it so often at the start of their marriage that his wife just lost interest in it entirely. That, or, the fact that he then took a second wife while still married to the first wife might have also killed the libido a little bit.
Or maybe he was getting off and she wasn't.
Anyways, the rest of that little clip just goes on to say that, in some Vietnamese communities, Victor Hugo is considered a saint. We need to go on to topic number 3. There's apparently a very small kind of religious order in Vietnam that recognizes like worldly famous people as
You
saints.
can't just go from telling me he's a sex addict who talks about his conception all the time in Europe somewhere, and then go to say he's a saint in some Vietnamese cultures.
Well,
There's
that order also kind of thinks of Thomas Jefferson as a saint, so it's like that's.
You're just.
I'm sorry,
okay.
I didn't have enough time for his weird mommy issues. I definitely didn't have enough time for the religious order in Vietnam that celebrates
The
him
mommy
still.
issues made sense. That didn't.
Also, like, let's not act like that's the weirdest Victor Hugo worship I've mentioned so far. A person who was born after Victor Hugo died is the one that was like, we need to mark the spot where that happens. So that way no one forgets the story of Victor
No one
Hugo
else
was
has ever
shared.
conceived there ever.
Third fun fact, and this is when Victor Hugo really won me over. For much of his life, he loved to party. Apparently, he hosted around 30 guests for dinner every night.
Oh.
His party trick was to shove an entire orange in his mouth, then fill his cheeks with as many sugar cubes as possible. Then he'd churn it all together, and then after turning it from a solid to a liquid,
I'm so scared about what you're going to say
glug
next.
it down with 2 glasses of Kirsch, a type of liquor, before swallowing the whole thing. Neat. In his spirit.
But for why?
Because you have 30 people over, and they've all heard your conception story already. Well, how else are you going to entertain them?
This is the problem with this era, is that nothing stops them from hosting dinner parties because they have other people do the work. You can't do that when you're cleaning up yourself.
And the problem with this generation is that no one's shoving whole oranges in their mouth anymore.
No one's making a screwdriver in their mouth.
There's this TikTok right now, which I love because it's getting stitched a bunch. And it goes, listen, here's my only advice to you as an adult in social situations. Say the weird thing. People desperate for authenticity.
Yes.
This is now my way of letting you know. Date to be determined. The next dinner party I'm hosting at my house, a night in Italy. Or
perfect.
Italian villa. I'm going to make fried zucchini stuffed ricotta shells, and the house cocktail will be an Aperol spritz. And then
I
you guys
love
are
that.
responsible for sides and desserts.
Well, you know Casey. We'll bring bread.
Focaccia, if you could let him know.
that's
Oh,
fine.
I think Grant would like focaccia. And ooh, whipped butter. Anyways, so... Didn't that sound lovely? Right in. Wouldn't that sound lovely? No, I'm kidding. We have so much to
He's
cover.
going around telling all of the other friends. He's like, because wouldn't a dessert just sound really great, you know?
I don't know about you, but just like a tiramisu sounds
Yeah,
so
and then
great
you're telling
right
Tyler,
now.
like, bring some chips.
That's- Napkins, dry ones this time, would be huge. Kidding.
Tyler just isn't one for the luxuries of tiramisu.
Also, let's whatever we're telling Tyler is also what we would be telling Danny if Danny didn't have Sophie, a beautiful,
yes.
world-renowned chef.
Amazing chef.
Who he could just kind of, like a barnacle,
Yeah.
stick onto.
Yeah. They have a beautiful relationship. A beautiful platonic relationship.
Much like sugar cubes in Victor Hugo's mouth. Not necessary, but kind of fun to have, Danny. I love, too, that this is where we're at. I haven't even really started the story. I'm just like,
know.
let's paint a picture of this guy. And honestly, maybe that is the whole story. There's some really fun, beautiful final thoughts at the end, but we're...
Oh, I thought you were like, right now, final
No.
thoughts.
Oh
And
my
I was
God,
like,
the panic
God.
in your... Grant has lost it. Okay, so in his spirit... This is on the How Much He Loved to Party. Even Victor Hugo's funeral turned into a party. Urban legend has it that Paris experienced a mini baby boom 9 months after he was born. And I thought that was nuts. And then this article didn't provide crucial context that I would have to find later in a different article.
Yeah.
We are trying, we promise y'all, with this research. So many people attended Victor Hugo's funeral in I think 1885 that it actually exceeded the population of Paris. More people attended Victor Hugo's funeral than who lived in Paris.
Okay, so here's the problem with what I heard. I'm now realizing what you said was there was a baby boom after his death.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you said a baby boom after his birth. And I was like, that makes no fucking sense.
They opened a portal on that mountain, and that's why there's a monument
He
now.
was born, and everyone was like, I'm really feeling like it's time to have a
Increasingly,
kid.
this story is starting to feel a little Jesus correlated. Got a little Jesus parallel, so to speak. There's a stone.
There's a stone.
We have a lot of details about conception, which no one really asked for, but seem critical to the story.
Parables.
That's not the birth of Jesus. Oh, that's the word.
Parables.
I'm a lover of the arts. What's also so fun about Victor Hugo is that we got to have a conversation about Victor Hugo that I think he would have loved. Sometimes we've done pieces and topics, and we've had, we treat them with care because like this person's legacy is interesting and complicated and at times fragile. And Victor Hugo was just a motherfucker. His entire life.
He's like, I'm here, you're here. Want to see how many oranges I can stuff in my mouth?
Fun fact number 4, because even though he loved a party, he loved fame even more. It's quite difficult to not let your ego inflate when you're so famous that the street you are currently living on is renamed after you.
Oh my gosh. While he's alive?
100% while he's alive.
Oh no.
Hugo spent the last years of his life on Avenue Victor Hugo.
Can you imagine if we named the street Grant lives on to Thomas Street?
Well, first it would completely throw up the numeric numbering and like lettering system that West Denver has, right?
Yeah.
Because there's
And you would complain.
There's like Alcott and then there's Bella. I mean, I could move to the T.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, there's a decent chance that they would just rename one of these in here. This is where all the magic's happened.
That's fair. Yeah, sure.
Not in like a Victor Hugo way, though. Like strictly in a podcast recording way. So he spent the last few years of his life living on Avenue Victor Hugo. And when people sent letters to him, instead of putting any address at all, they would just write on the to part of the mail, Mr. Victor in his avenue on Paris.
Shut up.
Just, where he's at.
you can find
Give
him.
it to him, please.
What?
Prior to that, Hugo lived for 15 years in the Channel Islands of Guernsey and Jersey, where he wrote poetry and wrote also the majority of his book, Les Mis. He was well known. Guernsey and Jersey, the Channel Islands.
Okay, I was like, he wrote Les Mis in New Jersey.
Piscataway. Everyone knows Piscataway is where he wrote Les Mis.
He's like, right.
I do think you go far enough back in history, the Jersey he lived on is then where American colonial Scott, New Jersey.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
You can see the coast of Normandy from these islands.
Okay, yeah. So not New Jersey.
Could you imagine if I buried that lead?
He's like, what does it mean?
Heard it here first. Les Mis was written in Newark.
Please rewrite, like, I dreamed a dream, but in New Jersey accent.
I dreamed a dream of Tom. That's not a great accent.
No.
But you knew the bit I was trying to do.
I don't even think I can do a New Jersey accent.
I dreamed a dream of Tom. Sorry, on this topic.
All a transatlantic accent.
On this topic, someone I saw, they're like, if you are having a hard time reading Shakespearean verse, just read it in a Southern accent, and then the verse will kind of like unfurl itself to you because you'll understand where the inflection goes now.
That's fair.
What light beyond a window break? It is the East.
I hate it.
I love it too because our art form, our forum, is just such a good opportunity for us to do, hands down, the worst impersonation you have ever heard your entire life.
There's this woman on TikTok who's like bleach blonde, right? But she's from, I think, the South, but she speaks fluent Japanese.
That's so fun.
But she does bits on TikTok of speaking Japanese in a Southern accent. Cursed. Absolutely cursed.
Wow, that your For You page brought that to you.
Ohio. Sayonara. Watashi wa onaga ga suita desu.
That was wonderful, but I was going to say this anyways. I have a hot take right now, and I'm saying it louder and prouder. Most Moira Rose impersonations are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. you aren't using the right kind of wording that she would. And sure, you got in your voice to soften a little bit. That's not a trick, folks. Victor Hugo was famous.
For his Moira Rose impression.
Here's the end of the famous paragraph. In 1881, in celebration of him entering his 80th year, a national holiday was decreed. All school punishments were lifted, and Hugo sat and waved as a procession of 600,000 people.
Procession.
Yeah, that's what I said. Profession. As they wandered past his house and waved. They threw him a parade on his 80th birthday, and one of the things they did to celebrate was make sure no school child got punished that day.
That's something that would happen during COVID, Like the parades to say, happy birthday.
100%. But everyone's in their little car. Except this time it's just with a man who you have definitely partied with at this point.
There was one time...
Who's also 80.
I was living in Golden after I graduated mines, and we were in the height of the pandemic, and there's this... We all thought it was the kids across the street from us' birthday, because they were doing one of those parades, and there was a lot of old cars. Golden has this great tradition that was great until I lived there, because then it got annoying. But every first and third Saturday in spring, summer, early fall, they do an old car show. And so they got some old cars and some really cool new tricked out cars to come and do a parade down our little cul-de-sac. And it was really annoying because they were all revving their engines.
Sure,
the kid was thrilled, and me and my friends were like, this is so fucking annoying. This kid's gonna have another birthday. We can just chill. He had just gotten out of his chemotherapy.
Go ahead and say it. Yep, there it is.
It's he was clear of cancer.
20-year-olds in the suburbs of Denver being like, what's all with all this noise going on? Meanwhile, a kid is out there watching his dream happen.
It was the best day. We went out there and we're like, this is amazing. It was really cute.
You just sped run the entire Christmas Story starring the Scrooge.
You're welcome.
The fifth is 6 fun facts before we jump into it all. Fifth fun fact, I'm just going to give you the title of The Champion of the Poor and Miserable, which is oftentimes what his title was, both in his literature, and his political career. He actually kind of pops off politically. We'll get there later. He was
given to himself. He was and I am the champion.
I 100% do believe Victor Hugo just casually would be like, well, and me, the most adamant supporter of the poor and miserable. That does this huge Victor Hugo energy.
Mm-hmm. But he stood up to it.
Yeah. I think the title was given to him.
Okay,
and then the last one, and I don't know, take notes if you would like. Hugo would hide his own clothes to avoid procrastination.
What?
When he was working on a novel, Hugo would spend most of his days locked up inside his study with nothing but a pen and paper. Literally nothing. He would basically force his help, right? It's the 1800s, so his servants to come in, take all of his clothes, and they were not allowed to return him his clothes until he'd hit that day's writing goal.
That is so funny. I feel so bad for the person in charge of doing that.
Victor Hugo bedded, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, Victor Hugo bedded thousands of women in Paris. I don't think he was all that bad to look at by 1800 standards.
He smelled nice.
And I saw a couple of early Victor Hugo pictures, and I was like, okay, short king, pop off a little bit.
Napoleon could have took some notes.
So that's so fun because we're about to talk about Napoleon.
Oh.
You are... Wait, is this a dream? Because you're prophetic now.
Oh my God. Shut up. I'm going to pour myself more wine in order to deal with you.
Amazing.
And be louder.
I get a chance to pre-read a little. Okay. So let's now start to get into the man, the myth, the legend. And let's go ahead and start right after one of Victor Hugo's most famous stories. Mm-hmm. Let's start at his birth. I thought that was good. I thought that was really good. Okay, so Hugo was born to this really interesting marriage. His dad is at this point a general in Napoleon, the OG Napoleon's army, and his mom is married to that guy.
And is also Not from here.
Right, exactly. Mom, I think, was from the south of France. But anyways, military life meant that Victor Hugo's dad and thus entire family kind of like moved around a lot, and that sometimes Victor Hugo's dad just went out on his own. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I also want to emphasize is that neither one of them appeared to have any artistic talent at all whatsoever.
Nice.
As Hugo grew up, he believed that progress in literature corresponded to progress in human liberty. Such a humble guy. And that artistic advances are moral advances, which meant that if he could only produce a few literary innovations of his own, he would also help with the liberation of mankind, which is such like a French Revolution coded thing about like liberty, liberation, humanity, mankind. A lot of like philosopher bro energy in the early 1800s in France. I have a degree in history. So as it turned out, literary innovations came to him with ease and without any real explanation, since both of his parents were kind of duds in that department.
They didn't even take in the view, guys. Like,
how prophetic are you right now for the thing I'm about to say
Shut
next?
up.
His father was a military officer who rose through the ranks to become one of Napoleon's generals, the very last of Napoleon's commanders to stop fighting after Waterloo. And then here's it is. In 1815, when little Victor was 13, oh, that's not the thing I wanted to tell you. Sorry. He wrote the last pages of the one of his books, looking out at the field Waterloo. So he was taking in the view. His parents weren't, but he was taking in the view of Waterloo.
wow.
And I've now said Waterloo enough
Waterloo.
times. Exactly.
Waterloo.
I saw a
Words.
clipping on TikTok
Yeah.
of Waterloo, but without any of the instrumentals, like just their voices. Like someone had isolated
Yeah.
it. It's like haunting, almost. Like in a cool
Yeah.
way, but then like in a sad way, and you're like, ooh.
That's a lot of ABBA.
In a good way.
Yeah. Does your mother know?
So by the time Victor Hugo turns 13, his mom's like, I've had enough of this. I don't like moving around. The year is 1815, for those of you wondering how old he is right now. 13 years old, 1815. She's like, I've had enough of this. Also, you have a second wife.
Goodbye.
Her name is Cassandra Thomas. Love the representation. So basically, she moves back to Paris. Mom does. Takes the boys with her. At that point, Victor's like, oh, we're finally settled down. I'm getting a proper education in Paris. I know. I'll write this poem. And it blows the French Academy away. And they almost give him the prize for writing. But in the poem, he's like, and I'm 15. And they're like, boo, hiss. Young, hate that. So he only gets like runner-up status or whatever.
What?
But basically, from that point on, everyone's like, Victor Hugo's a genius. Anyways, good news, good news situation. While in Paris, 18 years old, he falls in love with his future wife, Adele. Bad news. Mom's like, you can't marry her. She's a commoner. Great news. Then mom dies. And like basically,
I was so elated. What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen?
Basically, 1 month after Victor Hugo's mom dies, his dad's like, hey guys, I'd like to introduce you to my girlfriend who I'm going to marry, Cassandra Thomas. And then Victor Hugo's like, oh, we're all just doing what we want now? Boom, him and Adele get married like
okay.
right away.
Oh,
How much did I just
So many
miss?
singers.
I know. Oh, I just managed to summarize an entire paragraph in 2 sentences.
Fire
Um,
to the rain.
so Adele and...
Watched it pour. Sorry.
No, it's going to be a singing podcast
Yeah.
today for sure. Tell me quickly, what's your story?
Was it a 2, 4, 6, 7? You know, my high school did Les Mis, I think my senior year.
Why?
You want to know who played, not Jean Valjean, what's the name of the police dude?
Javert.
Javert. You want to know who played Javert?
You?
Mason.
That twink?
He was great.
Sure he
but it was
was.
still like,
Oh, did he do a better job than Hugh Jackman? I think that's Russell Crowe technically plays Javert. I just watched... I had to rent it for $4 on Amazon.
Boo.
Inflation
Hiss.
these days.
young. What? I don't know where I am. What's happening?
This is like the loosest story I have ever told.
Here's a
I think every fact has been like interesting though.
It has.
Okay.
I have a really random story.
What?
It's gonna take 5 seconds. I got a new computer for work today, and I opened up Teams because my office uses Teams.
I'm sorry.
And it at the top was like, you're using an old version of Teams. I was like, that's really weird because I literally just got this computer and
Okay.
they just installed all the software for me. And so I try to click download, nothing happens, and so I go online and search like Teams download for the newest Teams, and I try and download it, and it's like, this has been blocked by an administrator. And I messaged the IT guy who sent me the computer, and I was like, it's not letting me download. And he was like, go to this website. I was like, sure, that's the website I was just at, but I'll try again. I sent him a screenshot.
No, you're right. My bad.
He sent him a screenshot of what happened, and he was like, okay, well, like, it should just give you the option to download it when you open it. And I was like, yeah, I tried that. Nothing happened. He did not believe me. He had to take control of my computer.
Like remotely?
I sat there like scrolling Instagram and would just look back. He's doing all the same things I am on my computer. And eventually he's like, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check with corporate. I was like, what?
One time I went into work and had 2 of the 3 school computer printers downloaded onto my computer, and then the tech person came in and I was like, oh hey, it'd actually be really great to be able to print to that 3rd printer sometimes. And he was like, for sure. And when he left, I could print to no printers.
You know, said
I
someone he was like,
spent 2 weeks
shit.
emailing my friends what I needed printed. Do you know who would have loved a printer?
Really funny.
Victor Hugo would have loved a printer. So he marries his wife Adele
R.I.P.
in 1822. When Victor Hugo is 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
they have this huge lurid love affair. They have 5 children. During that time, their first child, Leopold, trigger warning, some tragedy ahead. Their first child, Leopold, does die within like the first year of the child's life.
That's rough.
Their second child, a daughter, Leopoldai, like it was like
What?
just the female version of the name Leopold, is his oldest daughter and by all accounts his favorite. She, again, is still in the content warning, drowns to death at 19 with her newly married husband. Victor Hugo has a relatively famous poem called Tomorrow at Dawn, and it's written about his grief about the loss of his daughter. 3 other sons lived to adulthood.
Hello from the other side.
A little bit. I mean, produced some incredible works. Anyways, after him and Adele are done having babies, he stays married to her, obviously, but then just brings a whole second woman into his life.
Like father, like son.
110%, yes.
Nice.
But he was at least polite enough to get her a home that wasn't his home, so she didn't have to live with him.
Considerate of
Yeah, it was considerate. One article described the home as, quote, humiliatingly small.
Oh. What does that mean?
Listen, he's not going to write Les Mis until his 50s, okay? He's doing all of this with Notre-Dame de Paris, also known as the Hunchback of Notre-Dame money. That's what he is paying for this lifestyle
the
with.
disfigured man.
Right,
Notre-Dame.
I don't actually know how he even refers to it, because
either.
again, it's
That's-
original French. But yes,
Just not hunchback. Yeah.
probably true.
Yeah.
Probably fair. Moving on. Okay, so it's going to sound like I'm wrapping up the podcast. There's like an hour ahead of us still. But these are kind of like the life events that happen. So he he has a couple of kids. He's married for a while. He gets a second wife, keeps her around. And then after those 2 wives, he's like, okay, all right.
After them.
So after he has those 2 wives.
Okay, so he still has, like, they're
Yes,
still around.
still around. After he's secured those 2 wives, he's like, okay, I promise, I'll now just sleep with whoever I want. But I won't
No more
formalize
wives.
the
Yeah.
relationship, okay? You 2 women are the only one I care to talk to consistently.
And my daughter.
Exactly. Rip.
I realized after I said it that the
It
daughter
was a
didn't make
little
it.
dark. That Hope Core Grant wouldn't even think of that kind of joke. Daddy, stop.
There's a guy on TikTok who's
If you're just joining us, I'm sorry, that made no sense.
There's a guy on TikTok who will go and like evaluate recently like taken in dogs to the shelter, and oftentimes they're like abused or abandoned, so they have their own trauma, and so he has to sit with them, and like so he films it, and he like tells them affirmations. He's like, this is not your fault.
You get Hope Core too. It's just dog related.
I know, but it still makes me cry. It's not your fault. You're not here.
I can't believe the
so
Susan
cute.
Boyle video at the start of this episode didn't move you at all. But you're just like, dogs being talked to by humans. I can't even watch it sometimes.
Because it feels like he's talking to me a little bit. But I don't want him to talk to me because
Do
that
we
feels
want
too
to
personal.
explore that
No.
more? Or- Okay.
No. That's
Listen, I'm ready to move on, but not if you're not ready to
Shut
move
up.
on. Again, I think that was a quality joke. Oh, where am I? I look at this and then for 5 minutes just stare at you and talk about this. And I'm like, okay, where was I? Right, okay, that next
right.
sentence. Okay, so he takes another wife as well, long-term serious mistress. In their later years, both of these women, Adele and the other woman, whose name I wrote many pages later, would become kind of like friend-ish.
good.
Like I think they were, yeah, okay. We love
That's
the same
fine.
man, and everyone loves that man. And
We can just vibe.
exactly.
That's fair.
So, as he gets into his early and then mid to late 40s, Victor Hugo then enters the political sphere as well, running for an elected position in what was at the time called the Second Republic.
Oh.
Fun fact, France is not still in its Second Republic. So he runs for a position in the Second Republic. And he originally gets elected as a conservative lawmaker. But that quickly changes over time. He gave a speech, for instance, calling for the end of misery and poverty. Other speeches in the 1840s, he gave speeches on the importance of universal suffrage, which is actually really important because French women were some of the last women in Europe to earn the right to vote. 1945.
Oh.
I know, yes.
Wow.
Some of the last to earn the right to vote. He also spoke on free education for all children, and he was internationally famous for his abolition to end the death penalty. All of this, this huge international reputation, before he writes Les Mis. He's
crazy.
popping off with some great stuff. He's like really into poetry and stuff. He is a French author defining the time. And his like most famous work has not been published yet. And then in 1851, Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew, Louis Napoleon, stages a military coup and takes over everything.
I was about to ask if they kiss.
You know, I'm about to give you the enemies setup, so if you can get
perfect.
it from enemies to lovers.
Oh, yeah. One bet at the end, baby.
What's so funny.
They're humiliatingly small house.
She does listen to me.
Sometimes.
Every time I laugh, I lean back, and my entire right hip hurts from the runs that I've done this week.
Wow.
I kind of want you to pull my leg in the way your physical therapist has pulled yours, because I can't afford a physical therapist, and I'm fine if you fuck it up a little bit.
I walked into my physical, so it got really bad. I did like a test run on Monday, I did 15 minutes, and then I did a solid core class, because I'm supposed to be cross training, but then I like couldn't walk, and it woke me up like at 4 a.m., like two mornings in a row because it was hurting so bad. And I walk in and he's like, how's the hip feeling now? I'm like, not good.
Really bad.
Yeah, really
actually.
bad. It like every once in a while it hurts so bad I have to like stop walking, and it's been waking me up. And he's like, damn. Effectively, he's like, damn, that sucks. And I was like,
Wow, really thought we'd see more growth. Anyways, go ahead and get in your stomach.
yeah. I was like, thanks.
Do you know she lived an active lifestyle?
Jesus.
And Victor Hugo. I was like, which way she's going to go? Both.
Yes.
See, all the above. So in 1851, Louis Napoleon throws a military coup d'etat and overthrows the Second Republic, ending the Second Republic.
Nice.
And Victor Hugo's like, oh, hell no. At this point, Victor Hugo's 49 years old and has like a really nice home in a place that will eventually be called Victor Hugo Avenue. And instead, he marches out to the streets of Paris and says this to the crowds. Citizens, you have two hands. Take your legal rights in one and your rifle in the other and attack Bonaparte. We should all just totally stab Caesar! So after he says that, he's like, and now I must flee the country.
Now I can't have this coming back to me.
Turns out Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, not a huge fan of satire or legitimate threats against his life. So I'm... You set him up, I knock him down. Sorry, we just had a little technical difficulty here. It was not a Denver earthquake.
You know those, what are they called? Creepy pasta texts or whatever?
Go on.
Abby sent me and Maddie one. It's like from her New York friends after the earthquake.
Oh, you mean the like, and it has like all the like
all
tongue
the
emojis.
emojis,
I
yeah.
love those.
Really funny.
That's our poetry.
Yeah,
That's
that is.
Speaking of poetry, Victor Hugo flees France.
It's like, so now that I've
to
said
Belgium.
that.
I'm just trying not to lose the thread for the 18th
Yeah, I
time
know, you're good.
on my own self.
I haven't been helping.
No, you have been. You've been bringing the joy to the episode.
Oh.
Because when I drove here, I was like, not a single planned joke, not a single one.
I was thinking about that on the walk with Casey earlier. I was like, I don't have anything to say.
So he flees to Belgium, and the Belgians are like, hey, it'd be really cool if you left. We don't need to piss off the man who's now dictator of France. So he's like, fine, I'll move to Jersey. And by that we mean Guernsey and Jersey, the British islands just off the coast of Normandy in like the English Channel. Mm-hmm. It is there where he's going to write a bunch of stuff about the political situation in France, mocking Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. Couple years into the dictatorship.
This is not
the OG.
Napoleon. This is
No.
his son or nephew?
Nephew.
Okay.
This is, his nephew. His dad fought for OG Napoleon,
Right.
and now he's making fun of like the reincarnation of it.
I would be too.
In the late 1850s, Louis Napoleon is like, hey, political refugees that have scattered across Europe outside of France, I grant you a pardon. You can come back and live in France. I think a lot of people do take him up on it and like do return, but he was like, I would rather live in Jersey if it means I get to talk shit about you. I would rather live on a wind-swept island if it meant I could point out how bad of a leader you are.
What happens in Jersey stays in Jersey.
So that's what he does. He like stays in Jersey. Eventually, shocking, the dictatorship falls apart. He returns to France. At this point, Les Mis has been published. Mm-hmm. He's again this huge national figure. He again runs for the Third Republic. You're starting to notice the numbering sequences behind all of it.
So unique.
He does actually. So Louis Napoleon falls in like the early 1870s. Mm-hmm. Victor Hugo returns just in time for, callback to the Jumbo episode, the Prussian siege of Paris. So he comes back to Paris just in time that he's forced to eat zoo animals.
Oh no!
Including the elephants Jumbo was pen pals with. Because they were in the same pen. A shockingly dark episode from us. From two people who have not stopped laughing the entire time.
That's rough. That's rough, buddy.
Anyways, eventually, he gets back to Paris. Mm-hmm. He gets elected to the government again. He's there to be an advocate. He's not a great deal maker behind the scenes. Like everything
Shocking.
Like all of my research was like everything there is to Victor Hugo, he pulled down his pants and showed you. Like there was like no real
or opened
mystery.
his mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an orange in there.
there.
Does he eat the peel?
I think it all goes, girl. I think that's what the sugar and kirsch is
gross.
for. Yeah, right. That's the gross part of that demonstration, the peel.
Yeah, actually.
Not a giant, like, chubby cheeks hamster man who's also your host for the evening, drinking all the kirsch in a weird circus freak show.
Listen, it might be better than hearing about his conception.
You cannot convince me that story, when told correctly, didn't set the mood in a good but weird way.
You had to be a certain number of drinks in, and I bet you he was figuring out.
Exactly.
He was like, okay, one drink in was too early.
Again, something that was hard to really include or explore, but something I remember reading was at one point someone was like, in one of the articles that I read, they wrote, it is unclear if the orange trick was Victor Hugo's own imagination, or if one of his guests one day put him up to it just to shut him up for a little bit. And if you've ever shotgunned beers at my house, you understand.
That's something I would absolutely do to Grant.
Oh, speaking of.
Oh, and Tyler.
A child
that's
came to
funny.
me earlier this
Yeah.
week and was like, "Mister, should I shotgun this?" And he's holding a can of Celsius energy drink.
No.
And I go, "No." And then this child, God bless him, goes, "Oh no, mister, so shotgunning is when you take your keys and I had to grab a shoulder and I go, "No, I know what you are referencing. I don't think your 4'8" body should ingest an entire thing of Celsius instantly."
We lived through the Four Loko craze.
Listen to your forefathers, those of us who survived.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
You kind of remind me, Patreon episode, if I have told the Four Loko story or not.
You have not.
Amazing. Okay, so, right. He's back. He's old. He's famous. He is sleeping with so many prostitutes at this point because his wives are kind of like, but he's like famous and wealthy and has accomplished everything he ever wanted to in life, and he fucking knows it. And he is just living the high life, baby.
Yeah.
His family, his children, his adult children, actively had to work to stop him from sneaking away to the dark corners of Paris and just sleeping with everybody. And they failed consistently at keeping him out of those corners.
Here's the thing: is that's how I want to be when I'm older, but for
100%.
Adopting stray dogs.
For me, it's like cheese and salami.
Yeah, that too, actually. Yeah,
Grant
you're right.
has gout because he won't stop sneaking away to the cheesery.
Okay, there's this really cute store that just opened up near me that I got this bottle of wine from on our walk today.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
they have a little corner of just snacks like Kraft mac and cheese boxes and marinara sauce and just all the munchy stuff.
It's a girl market.
And then they have an entire fridge of just charcuterie.
It's
things.
a girl market. I love it.
And then all their wine is organized by how natural it is and also how expensive.
The way I would spend $24 there every single day if I lived within walking distance of that place.
I'm trying to
beautiful.
convince Casey to go.
Anyways, let's get back to the story. So he's famous. He's just kind of messing around. He's doing what he wants. He's still advocating for the political causes that he wants. And then now I have another direct quote because he's just so quotable.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Victor Hugo, the people love you in every way you can use that word. You should run for president." And he's like, "No." And when they were like, "Why?" He said this. This is now the quote. Quote, "I find that delivering one speech is as exhausting as ejaculating 3 times. Maybe even 4. Victor Hugo, famous French author.
His wife was like, 9 times!
Exactly.
Why? The French are just so wild,
I don't
man.
know if we can even put this all on the French. Victor Hugo was clearly, in the best way possible, a man of life. A man full of life.
The French are typically are like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think so. Probably. Yeah.
They take 2-hour lunches.
I in
vibe.
hindsight, really did enjoy my time there.
I love France.
We'll be going back.
Yeah.
But just a man that truly seemed to want to experience it all 3 times before he left, right? Just couple laps around everything.
Yeah.
And he had the money, and he made the money in a legitimately good-hearted way.
Yeah.
He wrote literature that spoke to people and spoke about the inescapable and soul-crushing experience of poverty. And everyone was like, "We need more of this. Can you kill more orphans in the next one?" And he was like, "If you insist, because that's how tough poverty is. Anyways, I'm a gazillionaire now."
One day more.
Later on in these notes, and we cannot talk about it yet, but later on in these notes, I just have, why is Amanda Seyfield such a talented actress?
Yes. She can do anything.
And so, basically, only a couple people didn't really like Victor Hugo at the end of his life. Those 2 groups were the far right and the Catholic Church.
Oh.
Who believed he was insane. Not haha, you're wild, but as in lock him up insane. And that he loved the Republic. He loved the idea that like France could be great without being a monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very end, last 2 paragraphs of his life, Victor Hugo, during his political career, openly talked about the idea of creating something called like a United States of Europe, which was actually like in the late 1700s and then throughout the 1800s was a popular idea in other continents to take what the United States had created and try to replicate it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you have like Simon Bolivar down in South America trying to create a United States of South America.
Yeah.
You have Victor Hugo and others talking about this idea of like a United States of Europe. He's on record saying a couple different things. First being any war between 2 European nations is a civil war. And the second thing is that he has this quote. He's like, one day you Germans, you French, you Italians, you English will join together in common cause under a same banner without losing the distinct like characteristics or personalities that like set you apart. He like basically predicts the European Union 100 years before it actually happens. And I also think he would have loved the Eurovision Song Contest.
Bro.
I think he would have been one of those people that travels to the Eurovision Song Contest every year.
I would.
I think he would love it.
Yeah.
And then this is where we wrap it up. On his did I already read this? Oh, no, here we go. On his 79th birthday in 1881, more than 500,000 of his loyal fellow citizens paraded in his honor past the house on 16th Street. 5,000 musicians played Les Misérables on the street that was named after him. And then he was laid to rest in a pauper's coffin, so the coffin that you would give if like a body is found. And that was in his funeral wishes, laid to death in a pauper's coffin at the Pantheon. And actually his funeral is kind of controversial because he wanted a like very simple funeral. And the French government at the time, using it to like seize it and create like a big national spectacle, burying him in a pauper's coffin is basically the only one of his funeral wishes that they respected.
Oh.
Yeah.
So wait, I have a question. They played Les Misérables at like in front of his house, so
I don't know if that's miserables in French or what that word is.
Oh, Marseillais? Yeah, that's not.
That's not the song from Les Mis, because that music will be written in the 70s and 80s.
I was like, Sondheim, like, I'm pretty sure just recently.
Not that old. They played some song.
Yeah, a song that starts with an L and then an M and an S. People say that song.
That song at the end when Anne Hathaway rejoins in really kicks.
Have you seen the LGBT version?
Of what?
Of it's not I Dream to Dream. I think it's One Day More, where it's just like it was for some big like event, but it was like trans and all like gay individuals singing it, and they're all dressed in like modern attire, so it's like a modern telling of that song. But I like almost made me cry. It was really good.
I will be
I'll
searching for it. Yes, in between regular episodes of Patreon. So that is the like life of Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Sped run, not really. We weren't brief, but it was interesting. The like second half of the story, and then there's some final thoughts too, is I want to talk a little bit about like the book and the work that had to go into publishing the book. And this is where we probably put in an important little disclaimer. The musical we all know and love, not written by Victor Hugo. That gets written years, like decades later.
And I'm pretty sure the music is all by
80s.
Stephen Sondheim.
Yes, it's like a modern day European, one person in an article called it an operette kind of thing. But it's all based off of the story of Jean Valjean, Javert, and the book that Victor Hugo wrote. And getting the book published, much like a lot of really famous books, was no gimme. It involved several feats. And we're going to talk about that story for a real quick second. So the deal to publish the book, Les Mis, was path-breaking on several levels. First, Hugo earned an unprecedented sum, 300,000 francs for the book.
Holy nuts.
Roughly $3.8 million today.
That's bananas.
For an 8-year license of the book.
Holy.
So it wasn't this publishing company permanently owning it.
It was just for 8 years.
For 8 years, they gave him $3.8
I was wondering what the license looked like for that, because he must have been dead by the time the musical was written, which means I don't know what copyright laws looked like back then, but like I just learned this, actually. You know how we were considering going to New York and going to watch The Great Gatsby. So the reason that there's actually 2 musicals premiering on Broadway like this year of The Great Gatsby, because this year is when that copyright thing, it's become like common or public domain.
Victor Hugo's hugely influential in creating international copyright law. So well done there.
Prophetic Dreams!
You really have been like queuing in on it.
That's really great.
No, he will. This deal, and then also the other ways Victor Hugo will conduct business as an established author, really helps reshape a lot of the publishing industry. So he gets paid $3.8 million for the book just for an 8-year license. Quote, this is now from a book that I pulled. You can find the link to it on Amazon on our notes. This is me saying, I forgot the title of the book. I read a lot of stuff from the New Yorker.
As long as you link it, I'll put it in there.
It's linked. It was a tremendous amount of money, and it entitled to the publisher to own the work for only 8 years. It remains the highest figure ever paid for a work of literature ever.
Wow.
In terms of gold, it would have weighed around 97 kilos, which is 213 pounds. It was enough money to build a small railway. That's not how he spent it, but you could have. I don't know why the author chose that as the unit of measurement. It's an insane amount of money, and that makes sense because when the book publishing company came to Victor Hugo and was like, we would like to publish your book, what are your conditions? He was like, super easy. I want to be paid more money than anyone has ever been paid for a book, ever.
Yeah, I mean, super fair if you know they can't say no.
And they were like, cool. Let's find out what that number is.
I wonder if Victor Hugo knew the number or if he was just like, what do they do?
I don't think Victor Hugo knew the number.
I don't believe
he heard a number and he was like, well, it's not that number.
Yeah.
And then a second publishing company swoops in.
Yeah.
Second, the person who publishes his book his name is Albert LaCroix. Lacroix.
Yeah.
I did at least 20 minutes of research. No connection to the beverage. I'm like family treeing it. Like, does one of you move to America and then become a beverage specialist?
Katie.
Exactly.
Our Patreon.
Turns out no. Yeah. Turns out no. I'm like confident no.
Yeah.
But Albert LaCroix is a Belgian publisher who is the person that will ultimately end up getting rights to publish it. He was the antithesis of like a modern day publishing house. First, Albert LaCroix is 28 years old. Did you see it too?
Yeah.
First, Albert LaCroix is only 28 years old and had cut his teeth coming up in his own uncle's printing press, which isn't to say publishing company, but like pretty similar at the time at least. And he didn't have a lot of money to his name, but he was determined to sign Hugo on, the like world famous political asylum seeker from France who's living in Jersey, the island. He's like, I know what I'll do. I will collect as much money as needed, and I will sign Victor Hugo as our first client ever. And when I say collect as much money as needed, I mean I'll take out a huge loan at the Oppenheim Bank in Belgium.
Shut up.
He manages to get a couple other people in on it too. So he's not the sole proprietor, but like he's on the line basically for all of it. And he's the lead negotiator. He borrows from as many people as he can.
Oh my
he gets a huge bank loan from the bank that he did all of the rest of his banking at. And then, so he gets this huge amount of money. He gets a loan from the bank. He's like, I'm going to use it to buy Victor Hugo's book and publishes it. And the bank's like, here you go. Here's $3.8 million.
That's literally an insane amount of money.
It means that Les Mis is the first book venture capitalist funded, which is ironic when you think of the themes in the book Les Mis. So not only is he pioneering like book deals, he's also pioneering the idea of like venture capitalists funding a book. Oh, also later on, we'll talk about this a bit more, but Victor Hugo also maintained the rights to all of its translations, which was the first time that had ever been done.
Wow.
And then after he maintained the rights to all of the translations, he then was like, and we're all going to stop copying each other's books now, right? Because it was really famous. It was like, oh, it's copyrighted in France. We can't publish it in France. But if we just go across the river to Belgium, we can print off whatever we want. And so France and Belgium was like, okay, enough of that. And then all of the other European countries.
Victor Hugo was like, and that's money.
Exactly.
That is my money.
Exactly. Fanning himself. Either with money or a woman's fan because he just slept with her.
He would. He would.
He absolutely would.
Yeah.
So, okay, I did cover that part. Sweet. Okay, pace. Perfect. Amazing. There's just there's 9 pages of notes,
I
and not all
love
of it needs to
Grant
be
like
read.
finding himself in the story.
Thank you. It's the journey of my life, especially my 20s. Grant finding himself. Okay, so they managed to like secure the deal to publish it with funds from the bank. It's published in 1862, but Hugo had started writing it, this 1,500-page monster, 17 years earlier in 1845.
Oh my God.
He was then forced to abandon it. You know, when he was like, kill the dictator, and he was like, you better get out of here. He was like, you're right, I'll leave, but I'll leave one of my many wives and mistresses behind, and she'll save it from the house fire they're going to start.
God.
And she'll get it to me in Jersey.
Eliza.
I'm erasing myself from the narrative. Singing podcast.
It really is.
And so I think the mistress brings the book to him because he moves his wife and his mistress to the island of Guernsey, where him and his wife live together. And then his mistress, does then live in her own house, but still also on the island. And I'm assuming a small house.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's humiliatingly small, uncomfortably small.
Yeah.
Quaint with a lot of character.
Quaint.
You know?
Yeah.
Cottage probably is a word that got thrown around a lot. And so then it's on the island of Guernsey in his like political isolation from France. And he's like, yeah, and like Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, like what a Bonaparte that guy, you know, like what a total a-hole.
Boo.
Thank you. Thank you. It's there. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? Orphans dying. And then she's a prostitute. And the police officer has like his principles, but they're all misguided. Yeah, I don't know. He's probably handwriting it. I don't think they have typewriters at the time. I don't know what this like T-Rex arm thing does. Jump on YouTube to see me typing, apparently. Anyways, let's start to talk about the negotiations now. So it's 1861. Albert LaCroix is like, all right, I found you. Turns out you're on the island of Guernsey. Hi, my name is Albert LaCroix. This is our first time ever meeting here on this island. Can I buy your book?
For $3.8 million.
He just goes, can I buy your book?
Oh, okay.
And then Victor Hugo's like, yes, but for more money than anyone ever. And he's like, okay, we can do that. Let's make this deal right here, right now. And they're like, all right, do it. They make the deal in one day. Albert LaCroix, spoiler alert, huge Hugophile, like huge fan of Hugo. And that's why Albert LaCroix agreed to purchase the 8-year rights to publish Les Mis without having read a single page of it. Like, basically, Albert LaCroix is like, is it good? And he's like, yeah, it's really good. I promise it's not like a political comedy.
Plot twist. Albert LaCroix starts the LaCroix empire to pay back his enormous debt.
Here's the thing. I do kind of love, though, a man who, like, knows he's hot shit.
Yeah.
It's annoying when they're a student in your class, but when you're a published author who's like, I know what I'm worth. This is what it's worth. Let's make this deal happen, baby. I think that's kind of hot to a certain degree. And he's like, you're going to pay me more than ever before, and you're not going to read the book. And what did he call it? He was like, Albert LaCroix is like, is it all political? And like, is that what I just agreed to buy? And Victor Hugo's like, no, it's more of like a social drama. And at like no point is it a social drama.
The biggest flaw is just trying to separate politics from social drama. My guy. Albert was like, good.
Victor Hugo is kind of like... Victor Hugo is himself larger than life, and Albert LaCroix is described as small, slim, and agitated, but a huge fan.
Well, yeah, he has a large debt.
Victor Hugo, Albert LaCroix.
The crops are gonna die.
Gregarious, small, slim, and agitated.
I am angry a lot.
Okay. that was offered to him. Oh, yeah. Victor Hugo, he said yes to what was at the time 300,000 francs, which was double the amount he had said no to, which was 150,000 francs, which, you know, if you do the math, would have been like 1.9, 2.2, not 2.2, but like 1.9,
Yeah.
$1.7 million. Have I done all of this? Albert LaCroix completely bypasses Victor Hugo's agent. He just sailed himself straight to the island of Guernsey
so
and was
funny.
like, Victor, excuse me, you woman there, are you sleeping with Victor Hugo? Can you let me know where he's living?
You're a woman living on this island.
I have money to give him and a bank that has questions.
Knock, knock. This seems like an embarrassingly small house.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be improper, but are you one of Victor Hugo's official mistresses or more of like an avid fan of his work?
Either way.
Albert LaCroix. Nice to meet you.
If I throw this strawberry into the ocean, will you drink it?
I don't know, are you a real mistress of Victor Hugo? Quick, what does one orange, a lump full of sugar, and some kirsch make? Wrong. Good time. That's the answer. Amateurs. We're so deep in this right now. This is, I don't...
You know, you like
As a-
Victor Hugo, name one of his songs.
You're such a poser. I liked Victor Hugo before I slept with him.
The woman's like looking through her peephole, like,
One time, I saw Victor Hugo threaten to overthrow the government,
so I threatened.
spent 9 months in jail for trying to overthrow the government.
It turned out he went to Jersey.
Who goes to Jersey?
Everything's legal in
Boston's
New Jersey.
right there.
New York.
As a storyteller, I don't even think I can call tonight's episode a story, but I do think we've had a good time.
This is a good bit. Surely enjoyed it.
Good. So you're going to love this next part.
Okay.
Albert LaCroix is like, hells yeah, brother. We got this thing going. In order for us to make money at all, I am deeply aware of the repayment that I have coming in 6 months. Let's rip this thing. You get on this boat with me back to Brussels.
Oh,
and Victor Hugo's like, no, I'm not going to do
Oh,
that.
you misunderstood.
And Victor, so Albert LaCroix is like, cool, like totally get that. Not a permanent thing. It's just, you won't let us publish anything that you haven't read deeply and intimately. And we're on a schedule. And so that means I need you to be in like Brussels with us. And he was like, I'd actually prefer you send me all the manuscripts by sea on this rainy island I have chosen to live on. I would remind you all real quick. He's not forbidden from being in Brussels. The King of France isn't in charge of Belgium by any means.
He's like, well, I just can't come
on
back.
principle. I mean, oh, my stuff's here. You know?
I just don't want to move again.
Do you know how hard it is to find 2 appropriately sized houses for the women in my life? I can't keep running away from that. And so Albert LaCroix is like, yeah, no, that's fine. Great. I love that. Meanwhile, like, his future is just debtor's prison, like a thing that
just,
exists
like,
at the time.
sweat.
And so Albert LaCroix goes back, fires up Nepo Baby, fires up his dad's printing press, like, runs it off, gets it to Guernsey, and Victor Hugo's like, what are all these commas doing here? Get them out. I don't like this punctuation. And he's, like, meticulous with his work.
It should all actually just be one run-on sentence.
Exactly.
For the entire thing, and if this ever becomes a musical, the music should never stop.
Fantine, what are you doing over there? Why are you singing that part? That could be dialogue. Me, when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, these are all really beautiful. And Anne Hathaway as like a French peasant prostitute, so believable. She wins her Oscar for that role. But also, like, not every word, but whatever. I'm no Victor Hugo.
I need this bread to feed my family.
You threw me out once, and now I'm here. These are not even lines. Anyways,
No.
so Victor Hugo is like hanging out in Guernsey. Albert LaCroix's in Brussels, and it's like printing in the night to get on the boat like next day. And you know he's sending back like Les Mis _ final, Les Mis _ final V2.
Yes.
By the end of it, it's like, Les Mis, please just say you're okay. I need to publish it. We need to publish it tomorrow. And eventually,
Albert LaCroix's like, I will be Jean Valjean in this story.
Exactly. he's like, Victor Hugo, quickly tell me your story.
Quickly tell me
why,
your
and
story.
why and where. Let them answer to Javert. Listen, if you're not intimately familiar with the lyrics of the musical Les Mis, why are you 2 hours into this episode? Okay, let's go.
Please finish the manuscript.
Exactly.
This episode is so stupid.
None of
gonna
this
send it to
has
Maddie.
been great. It really does warm my heart knowing that she's gonna love this episode.
She has a lot
so
of feelings about Les Mis.
Turns out so do we. Okay, so next came the gargantuan publicity campaign, designed to unleash such excitement that even an emperor with an axe to grind would have to think twice before denying its publication. Because here's the thing. Victor Hugo is still in asylum, basically. And while the king's like, you can come back, he's specifically not come back because he's going to have to stop criticizing the king. He's never apologized for any of the things that he said. And like, you know, the aristocracy don't come out well in Act 3 of Les Mis.
No.
No, they don't.
No.
And so not only does Albert LaCroix agree to spend $3.8 million on a book he wasn't allowed to read, but he also plans on publishing it in a country where the military leader hates the author and like kind of continues to point
Albert
fun.
LaCroix's like, no, it's just social drama.
It's just a story about a woman who's lost his way and really bread.
Because the French all love bread, right?
No political symbolism there whatsoever.
He's just like sweating and gaslighting himself in the mirror.
Exactly. And so they... Where am I? Okay, the axe, there we go. Thank God the word axe is actually really easy for your eyes to find. Okay, so press releases were distributed 6 months in advance. And
Nice.
I love this little detail. The walls of Paris were plastered with illustrations of Jean Valjean, Fantine, Cosette, Marius. It's like movie posters, but like for
the
this
book.
book. Yeah,
I
to like
love that.
meet these characters. In a break from tradition, no advance copies were sent out for review. So, like, none of the book editors got to be like, and this weekend you
It
should
wasn't
pick
like
up a
Rotten
copy.
Tomatoes.
No.
like-
It
yeah.
was like, you see that woman? You want to see her lose her life? Come in this fall. Why was that so funny?
Your eyes? The way you said it. If you
I'm a
are
stage
not
actor.
on YouTube, you just have to come and look at, what is it, like an hour 40? Grant's
hell do you
whole
think?
demeanor, just you want to see her lose her life?
I was going to say teeth, but I was like, no, just jump to the end. Okay, so basically, it manages to drum up so much support. There's so much interest. The text of the book is, and this is now from the New Yorker, the text of the book is fiercely embargoed. As fiercely embargoed as the last couple of Harry Potter books were.
Oh.
It was the first work ever launched under an embargo, or at least such the first major work. And then, on the morning of April 4th, 1862, part 1 of Les Mis, called Fantine, was released simultaneously in Brussels, Paris, St. Petersburg, Russia, London, Leipzig, part of the Kingdom of Germany, or one of its states at the time, and several other European cities. No book had ever had an international launch on that scale. Within a day, the first Paris printing of 6,000 copies was sold out to avid lines that snaked around the bookstores. And the critics and the literati panned it brutally. Alexander Dumas, inspired no doubt by Jean Valjean's journey through the sewers, sneered that reading the novel was like, quote, wading through mud. Gustave Flaubert privately mocked it as, quote, a book written for Catholico-socialist shitheads and the philosophical evangelical rat pack.
So where
A
did part
beautiful
one
insult.
end?
I don't know.
Because either you're on one foot, you're like, this was just a bad story, or two, you're like, well, I want to see how they get out of it.
I hope
like,
it's when Jean Valjean is like, I'll go find Cosette, because that's such a cliffhanger.
yeah, because you think everyone might live. It could be a happy ending.
And no
An
one's going to
alternate
live.
ending for the French Revolution. Imagine the disappointment of getting the second part of the Deathly Hallows and finding out a lot of people die.
So, like, basically all the critics who, in my opinion, and it's at least heavily implied in the New Yorker articles, plural, that I read, was that basically all of the French critics who were living in France at the time were just like mad jealous of Victor Hugo. He was beloved by everyone.
Yeah.
He didn't live in Paris, which would normally not be cool, but like he was like in a cool, edgy, like skateboard kid kind of way. That, like, you know what I mean? They like didn't live in Paris, right? Like his mere existence was better than theirs, and he probably slept with their moms, you know? And so it's like...
Weird dad problems.
Right, exactly. They're like, boo, I've been to that mountain. It's not even that high.
Stop.
You're going to tell me this isn't you? You're literally wearing that sweater right now. Okay.
Are you my dad?
So the public disagreed. The people absolutely loved it. When 48,000 copies of Cosette and Marius volumes went on sale a month later, Hugo fandom had reached a fever pitch. So much so that shoppers in Paris arrived with handcarts and wheelbarrows to whisk away as many copies as they could.
Wow.
A peeved Flaubert, who earlier called it the Catholico-socialist shitheads and philosophico-evangelical rat pack.
That is just a wild insult.
But so good.
Oh yeah, I want to know.
That's a Moira Rose impersonation.
I want to know how many iterations he went through.
Even Flaubert delayed. I told you they're fucking pissed at him and just jealous. Flaubert, who hated him and hated the book, was forced to delay the release of his own book for 6 months.
I'd be mad too.
And then the New Yorker article ended with that paragraph with this: the Catholico-socialist shitheads was monopolizing sales. Within a matter of months, a triumphant LaCroix had paid off his loan. His tenuous bond with Victor Hugo, however, had produced a moral and commercial juggernaut, and also had resulted in Albert LaCroix no longer being a huge Victor Hugo fan.
It's like, this man is a nightmare.
It's like, I think it's okay to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's okay to have to try to co-publish a book with
especially
them.
someone who's already famous, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they've got to be a nightmare on some extent. Especially when you get this famous at this age. Like, there's no way he doesn't have an ego. Look at Grant.
Thank you. And I'm right around the age that I'm supposed to be writing Notre-Dame de Paris, you know? And sleeping with women.
I was with my physical therapist. He was dry needling, so we were just like chatting as he sticks needles into my leg. But he was
Sorry, just for everyone else listening.
acupuncture needles. You know. Yeah.
Do you not know what that is a reference to?
No.
I'm so funny at school. What I just did, brother, kills.
Because you're one of them now.
Yeah, basically. Wow. I know what you did there.
I know.
And that's really
you can't
funny.
say
I
anything.
know I can't. Sorry, you're getting dry needle.
Yeah, I was getting dry needle. We were talking about like being 30 or something like that. And I had talked about how I was at Maddie's birthday and she just turned 30, and he was like, yeah, he was like making some like joke about himself. He was like, yeah, I have a couple more months before I turn 30 or something. And I was like, yeah, my co-host, he thinks he's young and healthy because his doctor told him. And he's 30. He's about to be 31 though, so that's really embarrassing. And my
Go ahead.
physical therapist, without missing a beat, went, and that's even a prime number. That's just so embarrassing. I was like,
having no idea
Yeah,
what he
I
had
was like,
stumbled into.
oh my god.
Grant's gonna love this.
Who even is the age of a prime number?
Odd numbered people.
Nope.
So,
Because I'm 25.
well, sure. I mean, 25 is like an honorary even number.
Why did that make so much sense?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're now really, truly starting to get to the tail end of today's story episode.
I'll believe it when I see
So
it.
from a different New Yorker article, we have 2 paragraphs that I thought, actually 1 paragraph, because I highlighted the second one in red because I've covered it now.
Yeah.
It's no surprise then that Les Mis can still hold an audience's attention. Only the Dickens of Oliver Twist and A Tale of Two Cities.
Oh, wow.
Love how quickly you reacted to the word Dickens of Oliver
I
Twist.
love
and
Jane
A
Eyre.
Tale
Why do
of
you
Two
not think I'm
Cities
going to respond to Dickens?
can compete with Hugo as a popular poet who is also a great writer. And Dickens, for all his radicalism, worked more comfortably within the reformist society of Victorian England.
Yes.
Hugo, who wrote in exile for a time while France was in tyranny, could never do that. Dickens was the storyteller to a nation. Hugo was the conscience of a people.
That was beautiful.
And then it ends with, from Guernsey, in exile, Victor Hugo. Yes, okay. So this is a really cool story. The day it was published, Les Mis was published.
The first part or the second part?
The first part.
Okay.
From Guernsey,
Yeah.
Victor Hugo sends a telegraph to his publisher, Albert LaCroix, that just has a question mark. That's the entire telegram.
So I gotta go on.
And what they send back is just an exclamation point.
That's really
Isn't
sweet.
it super cool?
But also, I'd have so many more questions.
2 fun little random facts, and then we'll get into final thoughts.
Yes.
So first, oh my God, Amanda Seyfield is like such a good actress. You forget she got her start in Mean Girls as the dumb character, but she's like so talented, so funny. She plays grown-up Cosette at the end of
Yeah,
Les
I'm trying to
Mis.
think about what I knew her. What else I knew her from? She was in Mamma Mia.
Right.
Right. She wasn't. It was Dakota Fanning that was in Twilight. I feel like I mixed them up. The Fanning sisters and Amanda. There's something else
That was
I feel like
very
she was in.
recently my current age when I found out that they're Fanning sisters.
Sisters, yeah.
And not just of one Fanning.
Yeah,
They're identical.
Yeah, they're so similar looking. Have you watched? You would really like The Great.
Okay.
It's
I have seen it.
Yeah,
Yes, I
Elle
love it.
Fanning.
So good in it.
So funny.
Kind of then on that same timeline. So Les Mis gets published in the 1860s, 1862, but Victor Hugo begins writing it in the 1840s, and the rebellion that you see in Act 3 of Les Mis is a reference to an actual rebellion that happened in the 1830s. So the scene that you see is inspired from 1830s Paris.
Wow.
Between 1850 and 1870, Paris went through a major urban renovation process intentionally to make Paris streets harder to barricade. I have a source
That adds up.
even linked in there. Like, as Les Mis is published, they're like, take them down, and widen it out a little bit more.
It still seems pretty easy to barricade, I will say.
At the time, they were like, why? And they're like, typhoid. But they even like, there was like, it's like also like just trying to make it a little bit harder to barricade. All right, final thoughts. And I'm now going to talk a little bit about
excited.
the actual story itself. If you
Yes.
stayed with us this long without having seen the story,
That's crazy.
What a fun summary. Nuts, but fun story.
Yeah.
So Les Mis, I think, today is so compelling because much like how America just has like the same 3 themes that it keeps chiming on, I think that's true for a lot of history, at least in terms of like European and American, kind of like a Western version of history. So in the book Les Mis, it's the duality of the book that makes it so compelling and the characters so interesting. Like the police officer Javert is undoubtedly a principled man, dedicated to the pursuit of justice. But that pursuit of justice on behalf of an unjust system leaves Javert, the villain. His interpretation of faith leaves him without empathy, and he dies alone on a cold night, hated by basically everyone. Jean Valjean seems to be an honest and decent man, but a man that regularly has to break the law in order to act on his good conscience. Ditches his papers, is constantly running away when they're like, don't run away. He's like, gone, running away.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Cosette, we gotta leave right now. Your boyfriend, who I think is the guy who wants to murder me, is outside the door. Like, everyone's like, Jean Valjean's such a good guy, but everyone kind of forgets that, like, he definitely misreads that last situation a little bit.
Yes.
all of this is saying, leaving him within a morality and a righteousness, but on the run from the actual justice system. Even the young radicals who we meet in Act 3, who do the most to try to fix the system and bring justice to all, are slaughtered by that system. Their deaths inspiring nothing from their fellow Parisians. And the one surviving member of that movement is marrying Cosette in the presence of his rich relatives, like 2 scenes later, begging the question, what did that sacrifice even accomplish? Yeah. And then you end with 2 incredible quotes written by Victor Hugo. The first one, I think, is more well known. To love another person is to see the face of God. And then secondly, I think, therefore I doubt.
Oh.
And that's just my quick little write-up.
Your quick little write-up?
My silly little write-up. In my defense, I think I had like...
Meanwhile, let me get this orange. We're all enough drinks
I
in,
want you
yes?
to know, you and I are gonna have to practice a little bit. Maybe it's a Patreon episode. I think we can do it with a cutie. I think we can do it with a cutie, and then some version of schnapps in place of kirsch.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be really fun to do.
Beherovka, we could do.
What? Oh, is that from Prague?
The crystal.
Oh, hell yeah.
That would be good with like orange and
yes,
sugar.
and sugar. Yeah, just all those herbs. Would certainly blend well with the rind that we would be chewing through. Fine, I'll do it with a clementine. You do it with a baby bell. But you gotta eat the wax.
Can you imagine?
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I can't too.
There's a moment where you're like reading Victor Hugo and like reading what he was doing in his 70s where you're like, I'm so lame right now. Like I have socks on and I'm sitting on the couch, you know? I'm like rewatching Les Mis, his stupid little book, and then like writing about his stupid little life. What would Victor Hugo be doing right now? Drugs and women. That's what he'd be doing right now.
Drugs and women.
I mean, it is.
Looking at embarrassingly small houses.
And I also say, I love sharing that story with you because I think I legitimately, I mean, if you're still with us, you know, I think there was like legitimately 38 minutes of information in there. And this is a 2-hour episode. It'll probably get trimmed a little bit just from the things that we shall not say. But I just love telling it with you. Yeah. And I know the next time I try to tell any of this at a party, it'll be like, no, it was funny with Maya.
No,
I promise.
really good.
I'm going to have to like workshop it a little bit. Like, what is this? My conception story? The way I'm going to say that the next time we hang out, no one else is going to get it. So anyways.
Sophie specifically, our Australian friend specifically, is just going to be like, what?
What's going on? Sorry, does consumption mean the same thing here as it does? Or is it like, I was going to say the C word, but I shouldn't do that on an American podcast. It feels almost like we're in the Patreon episode because we're just saying what's ever on our mind right now.
Cheers.
Cheers, girls.
Yeah.
Cheers. So what are your final thoughts?
Victor Hugo is a bit of a legend.
Yo, huge legend.
Yeah.
Kind of original Party X guy, you know?
Seems like him and Lord Byron could have thrown a really cool party together.
They were alive at the same time.
I know. I thought about it a lot of times.
I think Lord Byron was older than, a little bit. Would have been the senior by a smidge.
Seems like Victor doesn't care about
Do you think they were at
age.
the same party together?
They're on the same continent, so...
Do you know who else was alive during this time?
Mary Shelley, right?
Yes. And also Maria Thomas, not Thomas.
Maria Martin.
Martin, thank you. It's the names of one of my cousins.
I also was going to make a Maria Martin comment at some point, and then I forgot.
Oh, and do you know who also then is alive during this story?
Abraham Lincoln?
Yes. Well, until he's not. But then Albert Parsons, the labor activist.
The Pinkertons,
the
too.
former Confederate soldier who then goes off and marries a like black/Hispanic/Native American woman.
/ maybe whatever.
And gets executed for being basically kind of too cool for Chicago in the 1880s.
1870s, right?
My favorite thing is there's this joke. It's from the comedian Nate Bargatze, who's so funny. And he goes, if I went back in time, I don't think I'd be able to prove it. You know, it'd be like, oh man, crazy. Like in the future, like there's gonna be phones that aren't connected to anything, and they're gonna be like, how do they do that? And I'm gonna have to be like, oh,
you got the wrong guy.
And they're gonna be like, well, can you at least tell us who's gonna like be president next? And he's like, you're not gonna like what I have to tell you. I cannot. But I feel like us, if we're put in that situation, it's like, wait, where are we? We know some weirdly specific information.
Me specifically can't tell you who's going to be president next. I can tell you exactly where Molly Brown is right now, though.
Quick, someone tell me, have we elected Grover Cleveland once or twice?
Where's William Dorsey Swan?
Oh,
Because
is
I
it-
need to go to one of his parties.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
1880s.
I can't wait for you to go to a William Dorsey Swan party and they're going to be like, you know what? You could have been more feminine.
I do. Kate Grant walked in and was like, she's wearing the vest. I thought she was the man of the house.
Exactly. We were like, Casey, could you please finish cleaning the dishes so you can make us our cocktails?
Yeah.
We have work to do. So, anyways.
I asked him to make Grant a cocktail. I was like, do you want me to make it? And he was like, no, I can't. I just need to finish doing the dishes. And then Grant was like, just do them both at the same time.
I mean, God, what happened to the 50s here,
Yeah.
you know?
Maya's wearing the pants.
She is. I mean, she's literally wearing her work outfit still, so it's this very cool vintage like vest and then these awesome
Yes.
pants.
Neither
Obsessed
of
with
these
the
are
color.
vintage, but I do like them both.
But they're like, they have that look to them.
No,
They're
thank you.
wonderful.
I really love them.
It's always fun to walk in to be like, what are the vibes?
What's Maya wearing? Is she sad or not? It's a hard tell. If I'm dressed up, I might be really depressed or fine.
It's the Subway question.
This time Casey was cooking, so you know it wasn't Subway.
Nice. Overcook,
Yeah.
undercook.
we weren't arguing when Grant came in. We were just having a very deep discussion, which was very serious, and so maybe it felt like arguing a little bit. But I was like I realized I hadn't really eaten enough during the day, and so I came home. Casey was about to start cooking, and so I just like made something quick so that I could set up everything before we got into this conversation. And then TLDR, Grant came over, nothing was set up.
Nothing was said, but I walk in and no one's talking to each other, so I'm like, hey guys, how is everything happening
Well,
here?
Casey was like looking at me, and then he looked out, and I was like, "Oh, Grant's here." I didn't see you, and I looked back, and I was like, "Grant's not here." And then he looked again, and I was like, "Oh, Grant's
here
here."
I am.
But in
You
the middle,
probably saw me there before
yeah.
there.
And then Casey, like, while we were in the middle of this conversation, I had finished my like little noodle thing that I had made, and then he like came over with like a bowl of like ravioli that he had cooked, and I was like, "Oh, you still love me?" We're not arguing. We're just having a conversation that's a little tense for some reason, and you made me ravioli.
And it looked delicious.
It was
If I
really-
hadn't
they're
had butter
Costco
noodles
ravioli,
before,
yeah.
I would have, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. So it was
Oh. I'm not going to say because he might. Well, I'll tell you on Patreon.
Okay.
But with that, thank you, friends. Oh, also, I have no idea what we're going to title this.
Oh, man.
You can find us on social media. We are. Well, I Laughed on basically everything. If you want to watch us, we're on YouTube as Well I Laughed Podcast. If you want to email us, you can email us at welilaughedpod@gmail.com. Please allow for 4 to 6 business months for us to reply.
Also, but if you have stories that you just want to share, like they don't need to be specific to a theme, or if you have a story that relates to the next theme in the bag, send them. Please just let us know if you give us permission to say your name
Right.
and your pronouns. That would be super helpful.
And if you would like to hear more content, you can find us on Patreon, where we are Well I Laughed Podcast.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
get some oranges.
Fuck off. Bye.